Guys, it's Sarah, and today I'm going to do another author spotlight. This time we're going to talk about Caroline Kepnes. Caroline is known most for her thriller series called You, which contains 4 books currently, but she's also written another book, which I have read, and I will talk about that one as well. Okay, so the You series has 4 books in it currently. Still to be determined on whether it's going to be more or a 5th book. If there is, I will definitely be picking it up because I absolutely love this series. Okay, let's start with You. I picked up this book not too long after it was published, actually. This was published in 2014, and I had seen it going around, and I loved the premise of it. The big thing about this book, this is a thriller book, and it is written about a stalker who is stalking people, and you see him doing it. The thing that's most unique about this series and this book in particular is that it's written in second person. So you are inside the head of Joe Goldberg, who is our main character and also a stalker. You are seeing him rationalize what he's doing. You are rationalizing what he's doing. And that's because you're in his head and you're seeing his thought process, and your brain is like, this is wrong. But then you're like, but I get it, and maybe rooting for him just a little bit, just because you're only seeing him do all this stuff. So it was such a crazy reading experience that way. I was reading it and I was like, why am I on his side? I should not be on this guy's side. He's terrible. And I know that. But it was just kind of fun to root for him a little bit. Not gonna lie. He's one of the best villains ever. So he is living in New York, and he walks into a bookstore and he meets one of the booksellers there, and he instantly becomes obsessed with her. Her name is Beck. He instantly becomes obsessed with her, and immediately leaving the store, he's all over, like, tracking her down, her social medias, where does she live, blah, 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 all these things. He's finding out everything about her. And you see him start to insert himself into her life accidentally, right? Accidentally running into her certain places and making sure he's there for her when she needs him because he's always there. You're watching him watch her, and you're seeing Beck as a character as well. While he thinks she's perfect, you're seeing that she's definitely not. She has a lot of flaws, and you see her do some terrible things too. And he's completely overlooking it, kind of the same way that you're completely overlooking what he's doing, just because you're in his head. And just the lengths that he is willing to go to in order to, quote unquote, protect Beck and make sure that she's safe and that nobody harms her and that she is all his. It's fantastic. I definitely love this book so much. I remember reading it and just went, that is one of the most uniquely written books I've ever read. And it's like, I consider this kind of a top 10 book for me. I loved it that much. And then when I realized it was going to be a series, I was like, yes, next, please. And next was Hidden Bodies, which is book number 2. This one was published in 2016, and we are still following Joe. Now, this one is told in first person, so still from Joe's perspective, but it doesn't have the same feeling of him talking to you directly as a reader versus you're just getting his inner thoughts. So it's a little bit different that way. And this one, we are following Joe as he moves to California. He moves to Los Angeles. So he went from New York and then moved to California, and you see him being Joe, but in a different state, in a different place. And you kind of see how he builds relationships from scratch because he's moving to this brand new place where he doesn't know anybody. And he, meets a woman. Her name is Love. And you see, how he inserts himself into her life because that happens again. It was so good. And you're seeing glimpses of what happened in the first book as well. So this is a series that you need to read in order because you're going to get spoiled for things that happen in the first book for sure, because some things start to haunt him a little bit. Things start to come back. And things are referenced in the first book here. So, but you're following him in Los Angeles, and he is meeting a woman named Love and how their relationship gets started. And then book number 3 is You Love Me, and this one came out in 2021. This one, again, we are with Joe, and he is now in the Pacific Northwest. Now, this one, he meets a librarian. Her name is Mary Kay, and he, again, immediately becomes infatuated with her. And the problem, though, with Mary Kay is that she has a little bit more going on than his previous women do. She's a mother, so she has a child, and that makes things very much a different situation for him. He doesn't let that stop him, but she already has a child. She has an ex who is still in her life, and a lot of things happening. So a lot of people that would definitely miss her, I would say, more than the other two. So it's a little bit more of a sticky situation for him. So again, we are in first person in Joe's head here. Like the first book, I think, is the only one that was written in second person where you feel like Joe was talking to you and you almost feel like you are the one who is being watched. The other ones don't have that aspect of it. You're just in Joe's head. So still in Joe's head, which is a crazy and fun place to be at times. So this one is, in Joe's head again. And this one is very interesting in the fact that there was a child involved. So a lot of different things were happening with that. And, just trying to having to take her safety into account as well, not just Mary Kay's, and just kind of an extra level of protection that he ended up feeling the need to provide was really interesting. It was very good. And there's a lot of scenes that are in the library too, which is fun. So, yeah. And the fourth book is For You and Only You. And this was published in 2023. And in this one, Joe is at Harvard because why not? He moves to Boston and he is enrolled in a writing fellowship at Harvard University. And he connects with one of his fellow members there of the writing fellowship. Her name was Wander, and it becomes a whole thing. So I loved the setting of Boston in this one for sure, because Caroline Kepnes has lived in the Boston area. I think she's from Cape Cod. So she's from that area and knows it really well. So that was really cool. And having been to Boston before, I knew some of the locations that were in here and some of just like the New England tendencies, like the language and the Dunkin' Donuts is a whole thing up in New England. So that was really cool to kind of read about that type of stuff as well. And, it's Joe being Joe. It's just a different woman. Now she has not necessarily a boyfriend, but somebody who really wants to be with her forever in her life. And he's very protective as well. So it's almost a competition. So that part was very interesting in this one. So Joe had some competition on protecting Wander and her best interests and what was best for her and what he thinks is best for her. He had some competition in that one. And yeah, it was really good. I really liked it. So yeah, this is book number 4. Okay, so for my star ratings for these individually, so for You, I gave 5 stars. And again, this is like top 10 for me with how unique this one was written and just the storyline and how much I loved Joe, even though I knew I shouldn't. It gave me all sorts of feelings about that. And so this one was a no-brainer 5 stars for me. Hidden Bodies was a 4-star. I still really, really liked it a lot. The perspective change kind of threw me off a little bit at first because I was expecting it to be in second person again. So I did kind of miss that feeling a little bit. And then I didn't love the female character in here. I liked Beck's in the first book. I liked Beck. I didn't love, her name is Love. So that's like, I didn't like Love as much in this one. So that kind of brought it down a little bit for me as well. And then for You Love Me, I gave this one 4 stars as well. This one didn't seem quite as action-packed as the first 2 books as well. So that's what I was missing in here. And I just kind of wanted some more like high stakes type things that the first 2 books had. And this one didn't have quite as much of that as I wanted. Then For You and Only You, I also gave 4 stars. I liked this one a little bit better than You Love Me, but at the same time, this one there was a lot about the writing fellowship, and I just kind of was a little bit bogged down by that. I didn't really care. And so there was a little bit too much of that. I wanted, there was more action in this one, but I would have rather not have as much about the fellowship in there and all the scenes where everybody's talking, because I was just like, oh my gosh, move on already. So that's why I didn't give this one a full 5 stars. So that is the You series by Caroline Kepnes. And if a book 5 comes out, I will definitely be reading it. Now, Caroline also has another novel that was published. This one was published in 2018, and it's called Providence. This one is set in Providence, Rhode Island. And that was interesting because I lived in Rhode Island for a year, not in Providence, but I lived, it's a very small state. So I lived very close to Providence. And so that was pretty cool because, again, some of the towns and places and stuff I knew when I read it. And this one is a completely standalone. It's a little science fiction-y, which was really interesting because I was really wondering how she was going to take that genre. It's very, very light science fiction, I will say. It's more of a thrillery type of book, but it wasn't, I don't know. It's a hard one to kind of nail down as far as a genre goes. I wouldn't put it in science fiction. I'd probably put it in thrillers, but it's got a little bit of a sci-fi twist to it. It was very light though. And so this one, we're following a boy who, as a young boy, he disappears and is gone for quite a while, like quite a few years, and ends up reappearing. I'm not going to say like how or why or what happened, but you see what happened to him while he was gone. You see how his family was affected while he was gone, and you really see how his best friend was affected while he was gone. His best friend was a girl, and you see her dealing with the aftermath because it really, really affected her entire life, even into adulthood. So you see that happening. It was good, but not great. I ended up giving this one a 3 stars just because I feel like the sci-fi stuff wasn't necessary. I almost would have liked it better if it had just been a straight thriller and maybe ramped up on the thrillery part of it versus having a sci-fi aspect to it. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say. But I did read it and it was 3 stars, so it wasn't terrible. It just wasn't, definitely not as good as the You series. I much prefer these. But I did read it. And then she has written some short stories as well, which I have not gotten to. I'm just not really a short story reader. I don't enjoy short stories necessarily just because I don't have enough time for the characters. So I tend to just kind of read them and then I completely forget about them because I haven't been with those characters that long and I just forget their stories. So because of that, I have not read the short stories that she's written, but she has been a part of multiple short story collections. Another cool thing about Caroline is that I remember when we lived in Rhode Island, actually, she came out with, I think You Love Me was the book that had come out. And she did an author event that was through Facebook. And you could, sign up to go. And so I signed up. It was completely free. And I watched her being interviewed. And you could ask questions. And I did ask her a question. And they actually did read it. So that was really cool. I took a little screenshot when she was answering my question. But the question I had asked her was, since this was a book about Joe Goldberg, I asked her if she feels like, she's in a bad brain space after writing Joe for a chunk of time, do you need to decompress after that? Do you feel like your brain is messed up because you're, in his head and talking about things that he's thinking about, which are horrible things, do you need to kind of like do some self-care after that? And she said, absolutely. She said she has a hard time writing in Joe's perspective for a long period of time because, it's definitely like deep and dark and can bring people down. So I thought that was really interesting. But she was very kind. She's really funny too. And I was really excited that she answered my questions. So that was really cool. All right, guys, that is my author spotlight for Caroline Kepnes. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please let me know if you have read the You series or if you've read Providence. Let me know that as well. I would love to hear your thoughts, and I will see you guys again soon. Hope you have a great day. Bye.